Hey guys, bjthebrave here, and I'm bringing you another deck guide today, a deck breakdown. Sorry, I've got to share this one with you. You know me, I'm an Ork player. I've been playing Ork on ladder this season, as I did last season, and I came up against Harken World Claimer. I've got to be honest, when I first queued into him, I thought I was playing against a bot, and then I realised it was a legitimate player, and I lost. I was playing my Gazgul deck and I lost this build, and I had to jump in and kind of give it a go, and I did, and believe me, this deck does very, very well against the current meta of Orks. Now obviously, Chaos, they're not quite where we hoped they would be in the current meta. I think a lot of people, including myself, were hoping that Abaddon, the Abaddon change would really push Chaos forward, but it's not quite there yet, I don't think. Could be wrong, it's still early days into the patch, but I definitely feel like this build, this Harken World Claimer build, is far more effective against the Orks. And so why is that? Well, obviously the Warlord Talent, the Hellspear Assault, is the main reason. Having Blast 2 and Flying is very powerful in this current meta. The Flying can help you deal with the Death Copters, it can help you deal with the Storm Boys that we see in the Orks. But not only that, it means that we can attack and deal 2 damage to neighbouring units. And so, where, for example, you might need to ping off a bigger unit, but you're thinking, ooh, do I want to take that much damage back to face? You don't have to. You can just attack the enemy Warlord, only take 2 damage back, and ping off 2 health from the neighbouring troops. So you can start to synergize with that, right? So for example, you know, we run Traitors Hate, which says do 2 damage to all units. So obviously, if we combine that with our Warlord power, that means we could essentially deal with a unit that has 4 health, right? So that's the way you need to think about the blast. It's not just that we only deal with 2, units with 2 health. It's how do we combine it with our other units to clear the board. And it's actually really effective at helping you clear the board while still putting on some aggro onto our enemy Warlord, which is definitely what we want to do. This deck is low to the ground. That's good against Orks, because against Gazgul, what a lot of decks are doing is they're falling behind to the new Gazgul Warlord Talent, whereas this deck has things like Chaos Spawn, which is like a 1-drop flanker which can come on and remove Vanguard units or finish off large units. It runs 4 of the 2-drops, so the Sergeant, for example, we can play the Dark Pact that gives him +2 health and Camouflage, and that can trade really nicely into the early Grots. We have a card in the Legacy of Vengeance. Now, this is a card that a lot of Ork players won't be expecting. Most times when people are playing against Chaos, they're not expecting it to have reach. It is a bit of a weakness of the faction, to be honest. But actually, Legacy of Vengeance, what it does is it takes one of the Ork strengths, which is their ability to go wide, and turn that against them. So if the Orks play out the Green Horde, for example, and have 8 bodies on the board, you suddenly get +8 to your melee attack, giving you 10 melee attack. That can be your reach to win the game. It can help you take out a big unit. So it's a super surprising, potentially finisher in the deck. We run the 2 Traitors Hate, again, able to deal with those Grots, no problem. 2 damage to everything, boom, gone. Again, that can be combined. It can be combined with Spawndom. He plays out the Green Horde, you play Spawndom. You mirror him for the number of units, you actually get 1 more, because Spawndom counts the enemy Warlord. And then we can synergize with Spawndom with the Traitors Hate, so we could clear off like a lot of units that maybe have 4 health, not just 2. Or we can synergize with the Dark Oratory, which gives every one of those spawned flankers a Dark Pact, and they can immediately attack, of course. Super powerful swing turn, and of course the Orks were expecting that to be their power play, and now we just completely turn it on its head. We do run some great early units as well, like Noise Marine can win you the game. Sometimes the Orks are in a position where if they haven't got a flanker and they can't deal with a Noise Marine, the Noise Marine can just go ahead and win you the game. This thing can get ridiculously large. And then we've also got the Plague Marines, another unit that synergizes well with Spawndom and the Noise Marines, because your opponent's going to want to deal with that board, but actually every time they do, the Plague Marine gets a Dark Pact Resilience, so they get +1 health, and they get regenerate. And guys, trust me, I've had games where I've had 2 of these on the board with almost 20 health. I mean, these stack, right? So you can imagine that you've got 4 or 5 dark packs of resiliences because you've just done a spawnedom and killed all your little 1 energy flankers off, and that means that this guy is literally attacking and then regenerating 4 or 5 health every single turn. It's superb, really, really good. We've run the Possessed Marines. Again, this gives you a powerful flanker. You know, being able to do 4 damage from hand is really effective and efficient for 3 mana. Obviously it can't deal with flyers, which is the downside, but it can deal with a lot of those orc bodies like the orc knobs, the orc mech boys. It can help us to kind of clear out, and it can combine with our Warlord Talent again. So with the 2 blasts, that's essentially a 6 health unit we could clear for very, very cheap, so we're keeping up. We do run a few more mid-rangey type bodies in the Aspiring Champion. This can be a potential finisher for the deck. We really want to be playing that slightly later, and things like the Chosen, of course, and the only one of the things about the Aspiring Champion is you could replace that with let's have a look. I was thinking about doing this. I haven't actually tested this, but you could definitely replace it with the other 4-drop, and the reason is you just don't have the buffs that you would have in, say, an Abaddon deck. So this was a change. Yeah, the Master of Execution. So I actually think that it would be better to run the Master of Executions. I'd only run the Aspiring Champions, and they've been okay, but some games you can be sitting there going, I wish I had a buff for them, whereas the Master of Executions actually fits in quite nicely because it's got better stats to start with, and it can keep putting that pressure on the board, dealing the 3 to 5. It's almost like the opposite of the Warlord Talent, where the Warlord, you often hit the enemy Warlord and get the 2 blast hitting the units. This one hits the units and keeps the pressure on the Lord, so we're always putting pressure on. So I actually think the Master of Executioner is probably a bit of an upgrade in that deck list. And then we have the Possessed Champion. This thing is fantastic. If it comes on and kills the Orc Knob, job done. It doesn't need to do anything else, but if it survives, it does generate a Dark Pack. So sometimes it might get, for example, Vanguard, which is then protecting your Noise Marine from being hit back. So a really superb 4-drop. Speaking of good 4-drops, we've got the Warp Talent. Because of the stealth, our opponent can't deal with it on the turn it comes down. And again, combined with things like Blast, we can deal with potentially up to an 8 health unit. And of course it acts as another pressure unit because of the flying and the 5 health. It's difficult for our enemy to take out even after it comes out of stealth, but by then it's already done 6 damage to face. So a real good pressure unit's kind of like in the mid game here to kind of help us bring the game to an end. The Bringer of Decay, really superb card, but I only run 1 because I don't really want this deck to run too late. But the Bringer of Decay can really help. Again, it can suddenly turn your Traitors Hate into a deal 3 damage to all units. It can really support the Spawnedom. I wouldn't be against it if you wanted to run 2 of those, to be honest. It's such a powerful card. I just think that having the curve low is kind of quite vital to this deck. And then we've got Uris, and again, it's received a buff in the last patch, and now it has Bloodthirst, so obviously it can strike twice. And it's just another way in which we can kind of close out and finish the game. Now, the Dark Apostle arguably is a little bit too slow for this deck. It's not going to be used in every game, but it's super powerful when it happens, right? Because, you know, you are going to have those board states where you drop this on turn 8 and there's sort of like, you know, 3 units on the board and you slam, I don't know, Dark Oratory and it just gets ridiculous. You know, you're suddenly putting on 6 Dark Packs onto your units. And last but not least, we have the Helldrake Strikes, and these are pivotal, actually. Really good. They deal with the enemy board. They combine well with the Warlord Talent again, so we've got some really great synergies here. And of course, don't forget that the Helldrake Strike will hit the enemy Warlord if he's one of only like 3 enemies, so it can help with finishing. So overall, what I really like about this is that it kind of turns the strengths of the Orcs on against them, right? If they want to go wide, we've got brilliant answers. We can put enough pressure, we actually put more pressure on the enemy's health than they can put on ours, so we can often end the game before they can. So there we go, guys. Go and have some fun with this deck. I think if you practice with this right now and play with this on ladder right now, I think it's a good time for this deck. It's definitely a deck that it's a situational deck. It's a deck that's built for this meta. It doesn't mean it's going to be good in like 3-4 weeks when the next patch comes out, but right now this is a superb deck, and if you are facing Orcs, then I think you will have a lot of fun with this one. So, yeah, let's hunt some more.